Hi, I'm Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and very hopeful time. And this is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of July 27th, 2013, for One Etznab, or Flint in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar, and also the Leo new moon and Mercury moving into Leo. And July 27th is One Etznab, or Flint, and this carries the themes of introspection and reflection, sparks of insight, the self-sacrificing healer, which is also the archetype of Chiron, the spiritual warrior, the knife that can be used either to heal or to harm, duality, so right and wrong, good or evil, fear or faith, east or west, feasting or fasting, women or men, us or them, leaders or followers, left or right-mindedness. And it reminds me of the story of Chiron, the wounded healer. He gave up his immortality so that Prometheus could be freed from his eternal bondage of being chained to a rock and having vultures come in and devour his liver by day and then have it regenerate every night, which was his punishment for bringing fire to humans. And of course, that fire comes from the sparks of Flint, of Etznab. And Flint reminds us to be aware of the illusion of our separateness so that we can transcend duality, to realize that our minds tell us that we are this and that, but our hearts tell us that we just are. Boundaries are a construct of the mind, and in Lakesh, I am another you. I've included the Human Design transits for this Trecena, along with the astrology and Tzolkin day signs, which will be coming up in a few minutes. And I'm going to quickly review some of the information before discussing the neutrino forecast for the current one Flint 13-day period. You know, we start by looking at the positions of the sun and the planets and the nodes around the wheel here, just like we would in astrology. But what differs from astrology, instead of relating them to zodiological constellations and relate them to each other by what the angles are, we look at them in relation to the hexagrams of the I Ching. And then they're mapped to specific locations in the body graph. And this design that we have right here, represents the body graph. And so we, as you can see, it's a more of a blow up here. And if we look around the wheel here, and we look at the information, the glyphs that are in black, represent the personality, and that would be what we would be looking at as to what's happening right in this moment. And what you'll be able to see when we get to the astrology is this maps to the same things. We can see here in Cancer, in the 52, we've got on one Flint, we've got Mars and Jupiter. And then a little further down the sign, and in the 53, we've got Mercury, and we have the Sun here in the 31, newly moved into Leo here. And then right here, we can see that Venus is right on the border between Leo and Virgo. And so these are all going to follow exactly in the same positions as they are in the astrology chart. So basically, what we're looking at is the 9 shapes in here represent that we've gone through a transformation since 1781 from when we had 7 chakras, which is what's represented here, to now we have 9 centers. And the pathways between the centers are called channels, and they come from the Kabbalah. And the sun in the 31st hexagram is mapped to this position right here, which is called a gate. And the 31st gate is the gate of leading, and it's located down here in the lower left side of the throat center. It's in a logical collective energy path called the channel of the alpha. And I found that human design has been really an amazingly accurate and my primary tool when I provide readings, especially if I want to talk about the person. I use astrology to talk about the environment the person is navigating. But as far as who's the character in the story, that's what I use human design for. As far as what's the story they're going through, that's where I use astrology transits. So these black strips of paper on the diagram, what these represent is where the gates that are being activated by the sun, the planets, the node, and I'm putting them up regardless of whether they form a channel. So we have the following hanging gates or potentials at the beginning of the one Flint Tzolkin. We have the sun down here in the 41. The Earth is in the 41. The sun is up here in the 31. We have the north node over here in the 44. We have the south node is up here in the 24. We have Mercury in the 53. And we have Venus is over here in the 59. And Mars and Jupiter are down here together in the 52, like we saw in that other diagram. Uranus is over here in the 21. And Neptune is in the 55. But we do have one channel defined here with Pluto in the 38 over here and Saturn in the 28 here. And this is called the channel of struggle, and it's been affecting us for a while, but it's going to wrap up during this Tzolkin on August 4th. And this has been bringing people experiences where they struggle against overwhelming odds. And it's through this archetypal hero's journey of fighting for our purpose that empowers others to stubbornly fight for what holds meaning for them. So this is about empowerment that comes from being who we're meant to be instead of following the conditioning of our families and schools, religions, governments. It's also said to be deaf as an individual channel. So the reason it's deaf is so that it doesn't hear the other and become distracted from what's their authentic path. Later on the 27th, we have Venus leaves the 59th gate, and it's going to move to the 40th gate out of the ego center. So it's going to move over here into the gate of aloneness. And we also have Mars leaves the 52, and this one's real important, and it's going to move over to the 39. And we've seen this channel here a lot because we've got that whole stellum of planets that have been moving along together, and now they're more spaced out. So now we're seeing that they're coming in, activating the 39, creating the channel of emoting, and then they move on, and then something else comes along, and we're going to see this played out in this Tzolkin report. So the channel of emoting is going to be here with Mars in the 39 until the 5th. So this is a time period where people feel the pressure to form from an emotional wave. In the form of an emotional wave. And the best way to deal with this level of sensitivity is appreciating the lows as well as the highs, recognizing that this is all part of a human experience and it's temporary for those of us who don't have this channel in our birth charts. So this brings lessons that yield wisdom as long as we can stay present in moving from hope to despair and back to hope in the cycle of an emotional wave. And we can tap into greater creativity by fueling, using the fuel of our melancholy or when we feel blue into some form of artistic expression. This brings like a real deeply romantic and acoustic sensitivity, so listening to music or talking with a loved one is favored. On the 30th, the sun leaves the 31st gate here, and it moves over to the 33rd gate. And of course, because these always move together, we have that the Earth departing from the 41 down here, and it's going to be moving into the 19. Which is 2 gates above it. But it's moving from a collective gate into a tribal gate. Okay? And then on the 31st, Venus then, when Venus is moving really, really fast here, so it's just flying through gates, Venus is going to be moving out of the 40, which we have over here, out of the gate of aloneness. We just made that move. And it's going to be moving up into the head center, up here, and it's moving into the 64th gate. Let's get a littler one right up there. So And then August 1st, we have Mercury is leaving the 53, and it is going to be moving to the up to the 62 in the throat, which is the channel of details, the gate of details. I'm sorry, up there. And so, one of the reasons we're doing this is if you know your human design chart, you can actually look at how these activations are affecting you. And then a really big change that comes up is Pluto, which is retrograding on the 4th, August 4th. It leaves the 38, which it's been there for a long time, and moves back into the 58, which is where it was before. So one of the things that happens with this is, for instance, I have the 18th gate here. So with this change, I now have a feeling of wanting to change things, work on things that have been spoiled. Comes from that change for me. But if you know your human design chart, you can be looking this up for yourself. On the 5th, the Sun leaves the 33rd gate and moves to the 7. Okay, and with that, we have the Earth it moves out of the 19th gate, and it's moving into the 13. So get a little one here, because these are all polarities. They're 180 degrees apart from each other in the wheel. And then Venus leaves the 64 and goes to the 47. So it actually goes to the other side of that channel as it's moving along. And then we have Mars leaves the 39, as we've said before, which takes away that definition. Oh, I'm going to take this one off too because we don't have the channel of. And so we're moving into a place where there's no definition. Mars moves into the 53 in the root, so it's now activating this. Okay. So, and then on the 6th, we have Mercury departs the 62 and goes to the 56. So it moves out of this throat gate and moves across to this throat gate. These are both collective, but this one's about logic and practice, and this one's about experiences. So it's really that kind of a shift. And then on the 8th, Jupiter leaves the 52, and it moves into the 39. So this, again, this channel here of emoting that we've been talking about, again, gets defined this time from Jupiter, which then also defines the center over here. So, again, the channel of emoting, this is going to be going on when Jupiter's there. This is going to be here for a much longer time. This will be here until September 7th. And again, this is people are feeling a pressure in a form of an emotional wave, where they're experiencing this sensitivity to highs and lows. And just, again, it's really about just allowing yourself to experience and the low periods as well as the high periods, and not really get caught up in it. Just recognize this is a wave. It's an emotional wave that goes from hope to despair, back to hope, back to despair, and it just continues like that. And so whatever you're experiencing emotionally from this channel of emoting, just recognize that it's going to be, it's temporary. I mean, less temporary than the last one because it's going to be till September 7th. But again, it's going to, the positive things it brings in is it brings in an acoustic sensitivity. It brings in real romantic feelings. And so it's really very good for romance and listening to music and things of that nature. But that's what we got for the human design for this Trecena. We're going to move on to talk about some other important things. And before I get to the general information for the one Flint Tzolkin, I thought I'd look at this July 29th Grand Sextile, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's out all over the place. There's lots of people, have something to say about this. Um, and or some of you will refer to it as the Star of David. And it's currently becoming very popular as the next really important shift that spiritual seekers have been waiting for. In other words, more hype and very little fact to back that up. This is the One Etznab Trecena. So if I'm creating a few sparks, you gotta, this is when it happens. Um, First of all, I'm a heretical investigator, so I have real great difficulty going along with people's made up and self-serving spiritual misinformation that seems to be the steady diet of so many. And in the past, we've discussed things like why Carl Koloman's Mayan tune calendar continuing after October 28, 2011, was not based on any scientific data, but only on opinions. We've discussed the December 21st, 2012 reported end of the Mayan long count was based on speculation, and along with that, there was a great disinformation of the film 2012 Crossing Over, where they actually referenced the solar system going across the plane of the galactic plane, this galactic alignment. And I love this. They put the date in and the time in there, like that. It's going to make it feel much more real, much more accurate. But the truth of the matter is, this happened back in 1998. So, the people who put this information out, and there are some people who really know their astrology. They also know this is false, and this was a lie. They put that in there in order to make that date seem much more strong. We've discussed the lie that all the planets were in a straight line at that point in time. We also discussed the misinformation of Saturn and Venus and Mercury all lining up over the periods at Gaza. And I love that it says, oh, this only happens every 2,737 years, because that statement makes it seem so much more real. The truth is, this has never happened in the history of the world. This is clearly photoshopped. But, this is the type of stuff that I struggle with, and people keep putting this stuff out. And, in the past video, we actually proved that we're over 300 years away from the age of Aquarius. We discussed that the pursuit of unity consciousness actually benefits the global elite. And one of the things about all these stories with this misinformation is that the popularity of these hoaxes, compared to my rebuttal, certainly illustrates the Mark Twain quote that it's always easier to fool people than convince them that they've been fooled. And sometimes I even wonder why I continue to point out that the emperor has no clothes, because these forces of misinformation are really vast. But I keep going with this because I agree with the George Bernard Shaw statement that to beware of false knowledge is more dangerous than ignorance. So this latest hype is the July 29th Grand Sextile, and the article that seems to be getting the most real play about this. The author is also referencing the Mayan Tzolkin, but in fact, what he's discussing is not the Tzolkin of the Maya. He's actually talking about the dream spell calendar. What we talk about here at New World Birth is the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. The dream spell Tzolkin is completely a false representation. It's not from the Maya. It's the invention of Jose Arguelles, and it has nothing to do with the Mayan Tzolkin. And then the other thing to look at is when you look at what's defining this grand trine. Okay, so we've got a grand trine that we've been talking about over and over again here in water, and then there's this other grand trine in earth. And we've got Pluto down here anchoring it down. We know Pluto's not going anywhere. But the other two corners of this grand trine are the moon and Venus. Okay, I think it's very interesting that given how fast the moon moves in this chart, it's going to be out of orb within hours. And that other point of in the Grand Trine is Venus, which is also currently moving very fast and covering more than a degree in a day. So right now, it's actually appearing to move faster than even the sun from our perspective here on Earth at this time of this Grand Sextile. So the significance of this configuration is really, I look at it more as a kite, because we have the water Grand Trine, which is hanging around for a long time. And because we got Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, they're not going anywhere. They're slow movers. And then we got Pluto, which is acting as a tail. But this is people are putting this stuff out. What they're doing is really creating more drama out of nothing except their own wishful thinking. This is the type. This is kind of this is just a lot of hype. To me, it's the worst form of spiritual guidance, because we got people who would rather consume. People who really eat this stuff up. It's like consuming false, sugar-coated nonsense to look for a quick fix, as if it's all going to happen. We're all going to ascend because some date or an alignment. And this type of information, I find really to be toxic. I think it's a distraction to keep people from finding their own path as an authentic individual. So why should I care about this type of disinformation? I'm really repulsed by people who are looking for this quick fix to come from the cosmos, from some portal, some gate, ascension, or another cosmic gift that really does not require any work for us. Just to have been born at the right moment, to be incarnated when Santa Claus comes to visit. It makes me think of this quote from the Quran. Do you expect to enter the gates of heaven without going through the trials of those who had passed before you? This type of misinformation causes people to actually lose hope. Personally, I've had enough of this date and that date that's going to come and change humanity. What we really need to realize is there's only now. And I know I used this Krishnamurti quote last time, but I think it's a really important statement, which is that the only hope for humankind is the transformation of the individual. So don't look out there for transformation. It resides inside of you to awaken to and to shine as a beacon for others to realize that they too can find their authentic self. Or, you can wait for the 29th to realize that this is one more hoax that leaves people feeling disappointed and questioning if there's any valid information that they can trust. And these types of posts, like this one about the Grand Sextile, when nothing happens, it leaves people disenchanted, and it really can be spiritually damaging. And I really don't wish to rain on anyone's parade. I just feel I gotta speak out when it's a parade of lemmings that are holding, going over a cliff, and again. On the lighter side, let's just move on here. August is the 8th month, and with the digits of 2013, when we add them all together, we get 14. When we add 1 and 4 together, they tell us that where August is going to be a 14-5 month in numerology. Basic numerology reduces the numbers to between 1 and 9. So when we think about the arc, 5 represents the middle of the journey, where we reach the peak of the mountain before we're going to head down the other side. So until the 5 month, there's information that's obstructed from our view as we're climbing, because we can't see anything over the peak. And then at the peak, we can see the lay of the land for the rest of the journey. And August is going to bring changes that break through the restrictions of our past and shift us in a new direction. A 5 month brings new opportunities, options, and choices through our creativity. And when we think of the 14-5 combination, it's represented as the art temperance and Hierophant card in the tarot, which is about integration of opposites to discover the ground that transcends them both, which can then bring us forth as teachers who learn from what we share, and the experience of those who honor us with implementing our guidance in their life. And when I first looked at August, it just really didn't seem that to have the intensity of the previous months with planets changing direction or any personal planets changing signs. But as we look a little deeper, we've got Jupiter entering into a T-square with Uranus and Pluto. So we've got Jupiter over here, it's in Cancer, and it's going to be forming a 180-degree angle to Pluto over here from our perspective here on Earth. And then both these planets form a 90-degree angle with Uranus. And this is a T-square. This is really a challenging energy. It expands our efforts regarding our true purpose for the security of our homes and families against the forces of tyranny. And when Venus moves into Libra later in the month, it creates a grand cross with Jupiter, Uranus, Pluto in late August. Again, it's Libra. It's still moving fast. It's going to be like one day, but it's going to be an intense day as it anchors down this grand cross. So I don't know how many others ways I can say it, but this is really transformational energy, and it's been the theme of the current years, and it will continue to be the theme. Jupiter in Cancer, opposed by Pluto in Capricorn, squaring Uranus in Aries, really pushes us to move beyond our old conditioned responses and break through into the freedom of acting as your authentic, true self in August. The dance becomes even more interesting on the 7th when Jupiter exactly opposes Pluto, and then on the 21st, Jupiter exactly squares Uranus. And then the grand finale of August hits on from the 23rd to the 29th, when Venus, newly in Libra, forms some very challenging grand cross options by grand cross by opposing Uranus in Aries, while both the planets square Jupiter, and which is opposing Pluto. And then the moon adds a little more intensity to this as it moves through Cancer on the 3rd. It moves through Cancer and on the 3rd and 4th, and then in Libra on the 10th, and then particularly on the 11th. Well, it's still in Libra, and then in Capricorn on the 17th, and finally in Aries on the 23rd and 24th. The grand cross can be difficult energy, so this will be a time of this is a time that can be very challenging. So there's definitely the stuff kicking in. So as we begin the Flint Tzolkin, all the planets are appearing to move forward from our vantage point here on Earth, except Chiron and Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. So they're all on the back side of the Earth here, so they're looking like they're moving in reverse because they're moving slow compared to these other planets. Chiron retrograde in Pisces is about releasing stuck emotional energy so that we can return to the natural flow of life. Retrograde Chiron has us reviewing our wounds so that they can be released, and by having the courage to open up our hearts to any fear or pain associated with our past. When Chiron is in Pisces, people are willing to sacrifice their individual pain in hopes of finding bliss in universal consciousness. At worst, this can really manifest as people justifying their victimhood as some form of martyrdom. This should really be about transcendence and surrender without losing ourselves in the experience. The retrograde aspect brings a longing for lost loves and memory of our losses, and it's encouraging us to return and look at our core wounds and bring them to the surface so they can be healed. Retrograde Uranus in Aries is seeking to shake our very foundation through the unexpected rebellion of the individual. This can shock us to awaken to forces awaken and forces us to embrace a new way of living through reversals and unexpected events. It's best to embrace the changes when they occur because they are removing the obstacles to our new direction. This is about unplanned experiences that can disrupt our perceived or planned life path in order to move us forward in our spiritual evolution. If we could change ourselves, uh, so this disruption, moving us forward in our spiritual, and it's moving us forward in our spiritual evolution individually, but also globally. And I really like this Gandhi quote because I think it describes this energy when he said, "If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would change. As a man changes his own nature, so does he attribute the world change towards him, the attribute of the world change towards him. We do not need to wait and see what others do." And when I looked at Gandhi and looked at his life path, it was interesting. I looked at the Dandi Salt March, which was a huge march, hundreds of miles. In 1930, and at that point Uranus was last in Aries. And Gandhi is certainly a great example of somebody who showed the impact of one individual can have on the world. Retrograde Neptune in Pisces is seeking transcendence through spiritual experiences. This will be a time to use spiritual practices to keep us grounded as we expand our intuition and consciousness. This will be an important energy to nurture as we're in the middle of 4 years of unexpected rebellion of the individual, which is represented as Uranus and Aries, challenging the decaying power structures, which is represented here as Pluto in Capricorn. This is a difficult time of upheaval, destruction, death, unexpected change, natural disasters, violence and war. So finding your own peace in connection to this transit will be an important quality to cultivate now for the tumultuous road we're currently transversing. Neptune pushes us to transcend the physical world and connect with our higher purpose and spiritual transformation. But it also encourages escapism. So some are going to seek to go unconscious, while others are seeking to awaken. And then with Pluto, the planet of transformation through death and rebirth cycle, moving retrograde, which is about reviewing the past, this is going to require releasing anything from the past that is a burden to our new path. We can choose to let go of it, or it's just going to be taken away from us. We have no choice except how we want to react to the experience. Pluto takes our baggage regardless of our attachment. It's transpersonal if it doesn't have a purpose in our rebirth. Pluto, like I said, represents death and completion, and in Capricorn, where we've talked about, this is the breakdown of structures to bring about transformation. So let's look at the daily vibrational energy of the Trecena. July 27th, 2013, One Etznab or Flint. This is about unity being experienced through being introspective. And on this day, at the beginning of the Trecena, we've got Mars over here in Cancer in opposition to Pluto over here in Capricorn. So from our perspective here on the Earth, this is a 180-degree angle between the two of them. It's also beginning to activate the T-square to Uranus. So this is between the 27th and the 31st. And this is a time period that reignites that revolutionary upheaval to collapse the structures that have outgrown their usefulness. This may seem like it's really out of control and very intense as Mars opposes its higher octave planet of Pluto. Mars is our personal desire and will. Pluto represents the higher will and the desire to transcend the limitations to become our authentic, empowered self. And then so in opposition, these forces are an intense relationship to each other. And then we have the Sun in Cancer. and it is sorry, not in Cancer, in Leo, and it's squaring uh, um, Saturn in Scorpio. These are two fixed signs, so it's a 90-degree angle on the same day, on the opening of the Trecena. This brings controlling, conservative, and limiting energy to challenge the expression of our true selves. And with the Aries moon finding support from the sun and challenged by Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, and Mercury, and merging with Uranus, the day's emotional energy starts with a sense of inner harmony, which is mirrored in the outside world. Then later it shifts to benevolent and generous feelings for those in our immediate environment, and then feeling irritable, which could kind of lead to needless disputes, along with having the compulsion to act in ways that may not be good for us in the long run. And then later it shifts to people feeling impulsive and acting hasty, with the moods changing quickly and unexpectedly. And then finally, there's this quality of being critical in communications, particularly with people that we have intimate relationships with. And then the 28th is Tu Kawak, or storm in the Mayan Tzolkin, duality experience through recognizing the gifts in adversity. And this is when Venus, which is here, sextiles, sorry, that's Mars. Venus over here in Virgo forms a sextile with Jupiter. So from our perspective here on Earth, this is a 60-degree angle, bringing feelings of contentment and benevolence. It's a very nice sense of being at peace in the world. This is favorable for financial dealings, particularly in foreign investments or agreements related to medicine or legal matters. It's also very good for getting together with friends and enjoying this kind of lighthearted transit when we don't always have lighthearted transits. And on this day, we have the moon in Aries is making no angles and is void of course all day. So that doesn't really favor major decisions or purchases, but it's really good for kind of resting to kind of assimilate the energies and experiences we've been having. July 29th is 3 Ahau, or Sun, which is about taking action through honoring the wisdom and memory of our ancestors. And we continue to have Jupiter activating the Grand Trine in water as it's moving through Cancer, connecting favorably with Saturn in Scorpio and Neptune in Pisces. And this is the point where we get the second Grand Trine coming in, okay? And it appears on July 29th. It's like I said, it's been a point of interest. You see it all over the internet because it forms in a hexagram with the water Grand Trine. This is, like I said, it's going to be short-lived because the Moon and Venus, along with along with Pluto, the Moon's just flying by. It can enhance something, but like I said, this is really going to be in its power for an hour, a couple hours, and even the Venus angle is going to move out of orb within a couple of days. So the impact on the Earth trine really is at best going to be a few hours, a few days. The intensity really, though, starts to peak at the end of July as Mars brings even more instability to the Uranus-Pluto square, pushing us to follow our individual authentic paths rather than submitting to the machinery of governments and corporations. And on this day, we've got the last quarter moon. It's in Taurus, harmonizing with Neptune, Jupiter, and Mars, and opposing Saturn, and challenged by the sun and being supported by Venus and Pluto. That's a lot of moon angles. Today's emotional wave goes from being very, very sensitive to the moods of others while feeling lonely and isolated. Then later, we encounter challenges to our daily routine while feeling in the flow and having a sense of wholeness. Till even later, we've got people who are going to be enjoying social interactions with others. And then with Pluto comes in, it's bringing out our intense emotions and stimulating a sensitivity, which also favors sexual relationships. And then finally, Mars comes in and we really just want to be independent from others. The 30th, for Amish in the Tzolkin or crocodile. This is stability through nurturing new beginnings. As Venus up here in Virgo forms a trine to Pluto here. So again, this is a trine is a 120-degree angle, which is a day when we might be contacted by former lovers. When we have Venus interacting with Pluto, Pluto's death and rebirth, and Venus is our romances. So, sometimes people think about contacting a former lover. Sometimes we get contacted by somebody who, we've been formerly romantically involved in, just kind of wondering how we're doing, maybe fishing a little bit to see if there's a chance to pull something back together. When Pluto's involved, it intensifies our emotional expression. Our emotions come to the surface that now can be meaningfully expressed to our loved one. Also on the 30th, the moon in Taurus is stimulated by Mercury, which is a day of increased communication. So there's going to be lots of chatting with our friends and neighbors and coworkers and, maybe former lovers. July 31st, 5 Eek or wind, empowerment through communication, as Mars over here now forms a square to Uranus. So again, Uranus in Aries at a 90-degree angle to Mars in Cancer. Which brings out real aggressive revolutionary energy as the integrity of the old world structures continue to be assaulted, as those in power violently try to suppress individuals who are fighting for change and for humanity. This would be a time to be cautious and avoid being involved in any accidents, because this people are going to be just flying through this, without really thinking and just responding and reacting and things like that. And then we have the Gemini moons challenged by Neptune, which has an emotional energy where people are daydreaming in fantasies, and those are more important than reality. And if they happen to be behind the wheel of the car, you might want to be a little more aware on the 31st. August 1st, we got 6 Akbal or night. This is about being in the flow through contemplating the stars, with the moon in Gemini harmonizing with the sun and Uranus and being challenged by Venus. The day moves from feeling balance between our inner and outer worlds to later having pleasant feelings to be with friends and loved ones, along with, also pleasant yet restless energy that desires some kind of emotional excitement. August 1st is 7 Con, which is a seed or a lizard, reflection through planting seeds or making new connections. With Venus at this point is now sextile to Mars. So again, this is a 60-degree angle, which favors love relationships and the formation of friendships. This brings balance between being self-assertive and a desire to relate to others. In romantic or sexual relationships, this comes about through a give and take process. In friendships, we encourage others to be themselves by being authentic in being ourselves. This also brings action, Mars, to creative projects, Venus. Overall, this is a drive for beauty. It's a great day to be with others at a party or out for a night on the town, with the energy for lively interactions, particularly with the opposite sex. But this is also good for investments in something that's new and unique. But the thing I thought about this is both Venus here is in Virgo and Mars is in Cancer. These are the signs of their fall, which means that folks are going to struggle with a lack of perfection or organization in their romance, which is represented by Venus and Virgo. And, Cancer is really kind of soft for Mars. So we can expect people to be somewhat frustrated under these influences because, these planets are in their fall. Also on the 20th, we get the Gemini moon making no angles. Void, of course, we got three of these during the Tricenta. This is, again, it's positive for resting, assimilating the latest round of energies and experiences. The Void, of course, what that means is it hasn't made any angles in the sign it's in, and it won't make any more angles until it gets to the next sign. That's always contraindicated for major decisions and purchases when you see Void, of course. The third is 8 Chichan, or serpent, in the Mayan Tzolkin. This is about balance through being flexible, as the Cancer moon finds support from Neptune and Saturn, merges with Jupiter, and is opposed by Pluto. The day moves from our innermost subconscious fantasies and daydreams, confusing reality, which may not be great for accomplishing much work, while we settle into later on sort of a more sober and realistic view of life. And then later this shifts to good feelings and generosity towards others, with deep emotions kind of rising up to the surface. August 4th, 9 Kimi, or transformation, patience through releasing what no longer serves us, with the Sun trine Uranus. So here we've got the Sun in Leo forming a 120-degree angle from our perspective here on the Earth to Uranus, is coloring the day's energy to engage in new and different activities that lead to self-discovery and a greater understanding of the world. This is more exciting energy than we have on most days. People will be more perceptive and able to make changes with greater understanding in their. Excuse me here. I'm just making a quick change here. There we go. Otherwise, the power is going to go out, and we don't want to lose power. We're talking about Uranus and the Sun. These are great power planets. So basically, people are going to be more perceptive and able to make changes with greater understanding of the interrelations within their lives. So expect folks to be more forthright in expressing themselves without trying to filter what is being expressed for the benefit of the listener. So people are going to just kind of blurt things out that are coming from who they are, and they're not going to have that lens that says, well, maybe I better say it this way so that this other person can hear it. So just sort of be aware of this. This is great energy to study science or something technical, or even occult subjects like astrology or human design or whatever. Basically, because it brings an ability for greater understanding of any discipline that reveals new and exciting aspects of the universe. On the other hand, this can be a difficult day to just follow the daily routine. So you might want to call into work this day if you're working, or so it really wants you to get out there and do something that you've always wanted to do. This might be a great day to cross something off your bucket list, your list of things you want to get done before you kick the bucket. And if you do that, you're probably going to gain some new self-awareness in the process. The moon in Cancer is challenged by Uranus and merges with Mars and harmonizes with Venus. So early in the day, people are likely to act hasty and jump to conclusions, and then shift to irritable feelings and critical communications. And then finally, we have people pleasant energy for being with friends and loved ones. The 5th is 10 Manik, or deer in the Tzolkin, manifestation through being a service to others, with the moon merging with Mercury and being challenged by Saturn, which starts this positive energy. So it's switching signs here. That's so basically it merges with Mercury in Cancer, moves into Leo, and that's where it squares Saturn, which starts as real positive energy for integrating our thoughts and moods, and then later it brings a few hours where people are feeling lonely and out of touch with others. August 6th is 11 Lamat or star. This is resolution through being grateful for abundant relationships. And we have the Leo new moon, and it's finding support from Uranus as it's merging with the sun in Leo. This continues to push the wave of seeking a new horizon through new information that arrives out of nowhere. This moon craves emotional excitement. And in Leo, there's the urge to roar. People will have the impulse to engage in activities that make them feel more alive. This brings a surge of new creativity through making different choices and exploring new options and investigating unrealized desires. This new moon is about exploring the edge because the familiar is no longer what's being preferred. And as I've talked about before, new moons are a time of new beginnings. And in Leo, this one's about power, exuberance, creativity, enthusiasm, and drama, which is ruled by the sun. The new moons bring an opportunity to set an intention for manifestation on the following full moon. So look at the house of your astrology chart that contains 14 degrees of Leo to consider what area of your life is being activated by this new moon. And for me, this is going to be my third house. That's the house of communication, your immediate environment, self-expression, connections to the family, day-to-day travel. So I'm going to look at setting an intention related to using this energy. And I thought about maybe that will be the day when I record the One Monkey Trisena report. Maybe I'll do that on the new moon because that would really fulfill the Leo new moon's desire for a dramatic expression through my third house's role of wanting me to be communicative. The seventh is 12 Maluk, or offering understanding through appreciating creation, as Jupiter is opposing Pluto. So here we got Jupiter now in 120 degree angle to Pluto, which brings Jupiter's interaction into that Uranus-Pluto square to an exactitude. It can seem like the completion of some long drive towards success or power, but it also brings an important caution because there is a resistance from unseen and powerful forces. This is a time to follow your strategy and authority very closely if you've had a human design reading, to move through this time with relative ease, as other folks are going to be out there who are trying to think their way through something that the mind, first of all, cannot grasp and only detriments. People can become really ruthless in their desire to get ahead under this Jupiter-Pluto tug of war. The influence will last a few days before and after the 7th. This is a time where there are difficulties with the law and even arrests. So this will be important to watch local and world events, as people will provoke authorities with unfortunate and unfavorable consequences. This also indicates the possibility of fanatical and obsessive behavior, where folks are certain that they're right and unwilling to consider another point of view. We're going to see self-righteousness abound. This day and the days around it can go either way, from making a power play or being a victim of one. The best way to navigate this energy is to work in what is the best interest of others. If you haven't had a human design reading and don't know what your strategy and authority is, just try and think about this and go through this thinking about how is it going to benefit others, because Pluto is really looking at that, or how does this benefit the highest good. But recognize that that beliefs can change, so be open to considering other opinions. We also have the moon in Leo. It's making no connections. This is the third time that we've had no connections, void of course moon all day. So again, avoiding major decisions and purchases, and instead use the energy for resting, to assimilate the latest round of energy and experiences, because we've had some intense stuff. So just kind of let it, settle and maybe percolate from the core. August 8th is 13 Ak, or dog, which is movement to the next stage through enjoying family and friends. And this is the day when Mercury now makes it around this corner and makes it into Leo. So it's, moving around, and all these planets are moving in space on this diagram. They are moving counterclockwise. So Mercury moving into Leo brings us for 2 weeks where we've got more eloquence and leadership and communication. Expect people to express themselves with a little more of a dramatic flair. It would be best to avoid being arrogant or boastful under the Leo Mercury influence. While the Virgo moon opposes Neptune, harmonizes with Saturn and Jupiter, and then finds support from Pluto, the day moves from feeling sensitive emotionally but confused regarding the accuracy of what's being felt, while wanting to be alone in our thoughts and feelings, and then finally feeling a deeper, more intense level under the influence of Pluto, with wanting to be with old friends and have congenial interactions with the influence of Jupiter. So anyway, no matter what these energies are or how they're affecting you on this one Flint Tzolkin, take some time out just to be in the flow of the planet. Go out, be in nature, watch a sunrise, sunset. Go out and look at the stars and commune with them. Actually focus on them and feel your connection to what's out there, than bigger than us. Be conscious of the moment through being introspective, meditating, really being conscious by being with somebody you love. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We're all here just trying to give the performance of a lifetime on the world stage. So just take some time out to observe the play as well as act your part. Remember, you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. Thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of Care and Feeding of a New World Age will be on August 9th, 2013, for one Shuin, or monkey. We're also going to talk about Venus moving into Libra, the second Aquarius full moon. I'll be discussing the astrology of 2013 and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show, which will be on Orion Talk Radio on August 1st. That will be when the live show airs. And so if you want to participate, be in the chat room, or they'll give call-in numbers. I'll post the call-in numbers as well on the New World Birth YouTube page. Or if you can't be there, these things are recorded and you can download it. So if you really want to have a little sample reading, you can also just email me your birth information. State that you want it to be reviewed in the radio show, and I'll do your chart. Anyway, but make sure you're clear about that it's for the radio show. So as always, I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. As always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com. If you have any questions, or you wish to also, you can contact me there to schedule a paid reading. And my paid readings are in the range of about 2 hours long. So, if you want the radio reading, that's going to be about 10 to 15 minutes. For the paid readings, it's 2 hours long. So there's a reason why. There's some compensation there. Anyway, I am providing readings, wish to make the service available to the greatest amount of folks, and there's 3 levels of compensation. These readings are really designed to provide you the information to help you navigate these difficult times. So, like I said earlier in the report, at the basic level, we're going to look at your human design chart to help you understand how to use your individual strategy and authority to make decisions based on your unique design. I include the next 3 months of astrological transits as they relate to your natal and progressed astrology charts, along with the human design reading at the middle level. And then at the top level, the human design and astrology transit reading is recorded and then sent to you as an MP3 file that can be downloaded to your computer. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to either be able to call me in Maine in the USA or connect over Skype to receive your reading. In some cases, when the reading's at the highest level, they get recorded and I send them to the people ahead of time, and then we have a conversation about their questions either through email or on Skype or over the phone later on. I'm also accepting donations. We're really struggling to keep this all going here. Of course, we're being affected by the channel of struggle as well. On Facebook, it's pretty simple to make a donation. You just go to the About on the New World Birth Facebook page, and then you click on the website link under Contact, and it will take you directly to making a donation to the New World Birth PayPal account. Otherwise, you can always find it on PayPal under newworldbirth@yahoo.com, that email address. As always, I am deeply blessed. I really am too, that you take the time out to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh, and look forward to connecting with you again during the One Monkey Trisena, and as we are getting through all these changes in life. Thanks for everything. I'll talk to you later.